Hi, my name is Amelia Grant, and the day I realized my marriage was over wasn't when my husband left me. It was when he took me to court, trying to steal custody of our daughter. He told the judge I was unfit, that I was unstable, that without him, our little girl would suffer. My parents believed him. His family cheered him on, and suddenly I was standing alone, painted as the villain in my own life. But what he didn't know was that I wasn't walking into that courtroom to beg. I was walking in with the truth. My name is Amelia Grant. I'm 36 years old, and until last year, I thought I knew what my life was. Not perfect, not glamorous, but steady. I had a little girl named Lily, 6 years old, with hair the color of honey and a laugh that could soften even the hardest day. She was my world. Every morning I braided her hair before school. Every evening I sat beside her bed and read her favorite story, Charlotte's Web. She loved the part where Wilbur was saved, whispering to me, "See, Mom, good things happen when someone believes in you." I held on to that sentence more than she knew, because outside of our quiet routines, my marriage was crumbling. Daniel, my husband, my daughter's father, was never the man he pretended to be. To the world, he was charming, ambitious, the kind of man people leaned in to listen to at dinner parties. He had the suit, the smile, the handshake that made strangers trust him. But behind closed doors, it was different. He traveled constantly for work. Some weeks, Lily wouldn't see him at all. When he was home, his attention was anywhere but on us, his phone, his friends, his next night out. And when he was frustrated, his words cut deep, not always shouting, but sharp, precise, enough to make me question if maybe I really wasn't enough. I stayed for Lily, because how do you explain to a child that her father, the man she looks for at the window every evening, doesn't really look back? Then, one autumn evening, he came home late, his tie undone, the smell of whiskey trailing behind him. He dropped his briefcase by the door and looked at me with a coldness that chilled me more than the October air outside. "I want custody," he said flatly. At first, I thought I misheard. "Custody? What are you talking about?" "Of Lily," he said, as if he were asking for a set of keys. "You're not stable. You barely work. She needs me." I laughed. I couldn't help it. Not because it was funny, but because it was so absurd. This was a man who hadn't made a single parent-teacher conference, who didn't even know the name of Lily's doctor. "You can't be serious," I whispered. But he was. A week later, a thick envelope arrived at my doorstep. Court papers, Daniel Grant versus Amelia Grant. The charge, seeking full custody on grounds of maternal unfitness. I held the papers in my hands until they shook. Maternal unfitness. 2 words that gutted me more than any insult he'd ever thrown. When I told my parents, I expected comfort. Instead, I got silence. Then my mother said softly, "Amelia, maybe he's right. Daniel has a good job, stability. Maybe Lily would be better with him." I couldn't breathe. My own parents, the people who watched me carry Lily for 9 months, who saw me raise her every day since, were siding with him. Why? Because he looked polished? Because he made money? Because he was a man? I felt erased. That night, I sat on Lily's bed as she slept, stroking her hair, watching her chest rise and fall, and I made a promise to her, and to myself. They can call me unfit. They can call me unstable. They can even stand against me, but they will not take you away, not while I have breath left in me. From that moment on, I stopped being afraid. I stopped replaying his words in my head, and I started collecting mine, proof, records. The story no one else wanted to tell, the real one. Because if Daniel thought this would be a war of words, he was wrong. This was going to be a war of truth, and I was ready. The envelope was heavy in my hands, too heavy to be just paper. Inside, words on crisp legal pages tried to redefine my life, my motherhood, my worth. Plaintiff, Daniel Grant. Defendant Amelia Grant. Relief sought. Full custody of minor child Lily Grant. I sat at the kitchen table, the autumn light slanting across the floor, and read it again and again until the letters blurred. It felt surreal, like maybe if I closed my eyes, it would vanish, and I'd wake up to a normal morning of cereal bowls and backpacks. But it didn't vanish. It stayed. A living threat, sealed in black ink. When Lily wandered into the kitchen, rubbing her eyes, I shoved the papers under a folder before she could see. "Morning, sweetheart," I whispered, forcing a smile. She climbed onto my lap, small arms curling around my neck, and for a moment I let her warmth steady me. But inside, I was unraveling. That afternoon, I drove to my parents' house, hoping they'd reassure me, tell me Daniel was bluffing, that no judge in the world would take a child away from her mother without reason. Instead, my father folded his arms. "Amelia, be reasonable. Daniel can provide things you can't. Stability, a home with resources." My mother nodded. "You've always been sensitive. Maybe this is for the best." Sensitive. That word again. As if love, patience, and being present every single day weren't enough. As if what Lily needed was a man's salary instead of her mother's embrace. I left their house with a hollowness in my chest I didn't know was possible. I was alone, or so I thought. That night, I called Claire Donovan, my oldest friend, the kind of person who answered the phone on the second ring, no matter the hour. When I told her about the lawsuit, there was a long silence. Then her voice sharpened like a blade. "This isn't about Lily. This is about control. Amelia, you need to protect yourself, and you need proof." "Proof?" I asked weakly. "Everything. Every doctor's visit, every school form, every bill. Start a folder, because Daniel's going to spin a story, and the only way to break it is to show the truth." Her certainty was a lifeline, so I did. That week, I became an archivist of my own motherhood. I dug through drawers for receipts of Lily's clothes, dental checkups, piano lessons. I printed school attendance sheets signed by me. I collected text messages. "Can you pick her up?" "I'm stuck at work." Messages Daniel had sent me countless times. I even asked Mrs. Klein, our neighbor, to write a statement. She'd seen me every morning walking Lily to the bus stop, while Daniel's car wasn't even in the driveway. The more I gathered, the more furious I became, not just at Daniel, but at the gall. The audacity to try to erase everything I had done, everything I was still doing. And then, the first crack in his story appeared. One morning, I opened the mailbox and found a letter addressed to Daniel, but with my address listed as his legal residence. Confused, I tore it open. It was a bank statement, showing thousands spent at casinos, hotel bars, and clubs. My stomach turned. I drove straight to the bank that afternoon. The teller glanced at the account, then frowned. "According to our records, Mr. Grant updated his legal address last month. This address." She gestured to my home. "But he doesn't live here," I said firmly. She looked uncomfortable. We received a notarized lease agreement, signed by Margaret Grant, my mother. The room tilted. My own mother had helped Daniel file fraudulent documents to make it look like he lived with me, as if he were already the stable parent, the one rooted here. I walked out of the bank with my heart pounding. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was coordinated. Daniel wasn't just suing me. He was building a case, brick by brick, lie by lie, and my parents were helping him. That night, after Lily fell asleep, I sat at the dining table surrounded by piles of paper, receipts, statements, emails, bills, proof of the life I'd built with my daughter. For the first time, I realized this wasn't just a custody battle. It was a war for the truth, and Daniel was playing dirty. But he had underestimated one thing. I was done being quiet. If he wanted a fight, I was going to give him one. Not with anger, not with theatrics, with proof, with the truth he thought he could bury. I looked at Lily's school photo on the fridge, her gap-toothed smile beaming at me, and whispered, "They're not going to take you from me. Not now. Not ever." And for the first time since the papers arrived, I believed it. Sleep became a stranger. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Daniel's name printed in bold under the word plaintiff. Every time I tried to rest, my mother's forged signature flashed in my mind. This wasn't just betrayal, it was war. And wars aren't won with feelings. They're won with evidence. So I cleared the kitchen table and turned it into my battlefield. Stacks of folders, piles of receipts, sticky notes marking timelines. I wasn't just a mother anymore. I was my own investigator. The first stop was the utility office. I asked for records of electricity, water, and internet since the day I moved into the house. Every single bill had my name on it. Not once had Daniel's name appeared. The clerk printed a statement and signed it with a flourish. "Hope this helps you," she said quietly, as if she already knew. Next was the post office. The clerk checked the records. Daniel Grant never had mail forwarded here until last month. Suddenly, everything was rerouted. Another signed statement, another crack in his story. I felt a small spark of strength, but I needed more than paper. I needed people. So I knocked on doors. Mrs. Klein, the elderly neighbor across the street, welcomed me in with tea. "For 3 years I've seen you walking Lily to the bus every morning," she said firmly. "I've never once seen Daniel. The man wouldn't know which bus she takes." She signed her statement without hesitation. At the pediatrician's office, the receptionist printed Lily's entire medical history, every appointment booked under my name. She glanced at me as she slid the papers across the counter. "You're here at every checkup. Everyone here knows you." The pile of truth was growing. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that Daniel had more tricks. He was too confident, too practiced at charming people. I needed something undeniable, something that would strip away the mask he wore in public. That's when the phone rang. "Ms. Grant." The voice on the line was hesitant, unfamiliar. "You don't know me. I used to work at Holloway and Pierce, your husband's old law firm." My pulse quickened. "Go on." "I saw your name on some documents years ago. Then it disappeared. The day your mother came into the office, the drafts changed. It was about a will, your grandfather's will." I froze. My grandfather had passed 5 years earlier. Daniel walked away with an inheritance. I got nothing. At the time, my parents told me it was a filing error. But what if it wasn't? The woman continued, "I kept a copy of the original draft. If you want it, meet me at Mill Street Cafe tomorrow morning." I hardly slept that night. The next morning, I walked into the cafe, heart hammering. The woman was already there, mid-40s, hair tied back, a manila envelope on the table. "This is the original draft," she said, sliding it toward me. My hands shook as I opened it. There it was, my name, clearly listed as a beneficiary. And the later draft, same date, same stamp, my name erased, Daniel's written in its place. Not a mistake, not an error, fraud. She leaned in. "If I'm called, I'll testify. I saw your mother with the senior partner that day. When she left, the draft was changed." I whispered, "You have no idea what this means." "Oh, I do," she said. "Now go win." By the end of the week, my kitchen looked like a war room. Stack 1, deed, mortgage, utilities, school records, proof of my home, my role. Stack 2, witness statements, Mrs. Klein, the mail clerk, the pediatrician's office. Stack 3, the will documents, evidence of long-term deception. Stack 4, Daniel's bank statements showing gambling and clubs instead of fatherhood. Stack 5, the voicemail, his own voice admitting he didn't care about Lily. Claire sat with me, flipping through the evidence. "This is powerful, Amelia, but you need one more thing. Something that shows you did support Daniel when he needed it, that you're not trying to erase him. He's trying to erase you." I thought hard. Then I remembered. I dug into an old box and found the check stub. $5,000 I'd given Daniel 3 years ago to pay off his credit card debt, then an email chain where I introduced him to a friend offering him a job. He never followed through. I placed them on the table. I never turned my back on him. He turned his back on us. Claire nodded. That's exactly the story we'll tell. That night, after Lily was asleep, I stepped onto the porch. The cool night air brushed my skin as I looked up at the moon. I thought of every moment Daniel had tried to make me small, to make me doubt. And I thought of Lily, her tiny hand in mine, her laughter echoing through the house. This wasn't just about custody anymore. It was about dignity. It was about saying, you don't get to rewrite my story, my motherhood, my worth. The evidence was ready, and so was I. For the first time, I felt something stronger than fear, resolve. And I whispered into the night, Daniel has no idea what's coming. The courthouse smelled like old wood and paper. History and judgment blended into the air. I arrived early, clutching the binder Claire and I had prepared, every document neatly tabbed and labeled. My palms were slick with sweat, but my spine was straight. As I walked up the marble steps, I saw them. Daniel, in a tailored navy suit, hair slicked back, holding a leather briefcase he'd probably borrowed. He looked every bit the image of a responsible father. Beside him, my mother in her pearl earrings, chin lifted high as if she were the one on trial. My father's jaw was set, eyes forward, refusing to meet mine. Not one of them spoke, not one of them even looked at me. Inside courtroom 3B, the air felt heavy. The bailiff called our case, Grant versus Grant. Custody dispute. We took our seats. Claire sat to my left, her presence calm, steady. Daniel's lawyer, a sharp man named Talbot, stood to address the judge first. Your Honor, Talbot began smoothly, this case is about a child's welfare. My client, Daniel Grant, is a hard-working father who's been forced to step in because his wife, Amelia, is unstable and incapable of providing a safe environment. He seeks custody, not out of malice, but necessity. Necessity. The word burned. Daniel took the stand. His voice cracked at all the right places. My daughter deserves better, he said. I've watched Amelia struggle emotionally, financially. I couldn't stand by any longer. Lily needs stability, and I can give her that. I wanted to stand, to shout, to tear down every lie spilling from his lips. But Claire leaned close and whispered, Not yet. Let him hang himself with his own words. When it was my turn, my legs trembled as I walked to the stand. Claire's questions were calm, direct. Mrs. Grant, who schedules Lily's medical appointments? I do, I answered, sliding the pediatrician's records into evidence. Who ensures her school attendance? I do, I said, handing over signed attendance sheets. Whose name is on the deed, mortgage, and every utility bill for the family home? Mine, I said, presenting the documents. Piece by piece, the neat facade Daniel had built began to crack. Talbot tried to interrupt. Isn't it true you've had disagreements with your husband? Episodes of emotional instability? I looked straight at him. Like any marriage, there were disagreements, but disagreement is not instability. Taking care of a child alone while the father is gone for weeks, that is stability. The judge's eyes flicked toward me, thoughtful. Then Claire called the witnesses. Mrs. Klein shuffled to the stand, her voice clear despite her age. For years, I've seen Amelia with Lily every morning. I've never once seen Daniel at the bus stop. If you ask me, he wouldn't recognize the driver. The pediatrician's receptionist confirmed every checkup, every emergency call. Amelia was the parent present. The mail clerk testified, Mr. Grant only changed his address to Amelia's house last month. Before that, there was nothing connecting him there. Each statement was a nail in the coffin of Daniel's narrative, but Claire wasn't finished. Your Honor, she said, sliding a new set of papers forward. "These are two versions of the late Samuel Brooks's will, Amelia's grandfather. The first draft includes Amelia as beneficiary. The second, created the same day, replaces her name with Daniel's. Both came from the same law firm where Mr. Grant had personal connections. We have a witness who can testify to this alteration." The woman from the cafe walked to the stand, her voice steady. She described how my mother had visited the law office and how, after that meeting, the draft was changed, but the judge leaned forward. "On the contrary, it speaks to a pattern of misrepresentation, one that may directly influence this case." I could see Daniel's composure cracking. His jaw clenched, his knuckles white as he gripped the table. Then came the final blow. Claire placed a small recorder on the evidence table. "Your Honor, this is a voicemail left by Mr. Grant." The courtroom fell silent as the recording played. Daniel's voice, slurred with drink, filled the air. "I don't care about Lily. I just want Amelia to suffer." The words hung heavy in the room. My stomach twisted hearing them again, but this time they weren't just mine to bear. Everyone had heard the truth. The judge removed his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. His voice was calm but cutting. "Mr. Grant, do you dispute that this is your voice?" Daniel swallowed hard. "No, Your Honor, but—" "No further explanation is necessary," the judge interrupted. By the time closing arguments ended, the shift in the room was undeniable. Daniel had entered the courtroom wrapped in credibility. He left it stripped bare, exposed by his own greed and lies. As we filed out, I caught his eyes for just a second. For a fleeting moment, I searched for the man I once loved, the father of my child, but all I saw was a stranger, angry, humiliated, hollow. Outside, the autumn air felt different, lighter. Claire touched my shoulder. "You were composed. You told the truth. That matters." I nodded, clutching the binder tight. The judge hadn't delivered the final ruling yet, but I already knew. The truth was louder than his lies, and it was only a matter of time before justice followed. The envelope arrived on a rainy Thursday morning, thin, just a few sheets of paper inside, but when I held it in my hands, it felt like a brick. For a long moment, I couldn't bring myself to open it. I poured coffee instead, sat by the kitchen window, and listened to the rain tapping against the glass. My hands itched to tear the seal, but part of me wanted to stay in this moment a little longer. The last moment before I knew whether I had lost my daughter or won the right to keep her safe. Finally, I slid a knife under the seal. The first words made my breath catch. Decision of the court. Custody of minor child Lily Grant is hereby granted to the defendant, Amelia Grant. The plaintiff's petition is denied in full. Furthermore, evidence of intentional misrepresentation has been referred to the district attorney's office for review. I read the words 3 times. My vision blurred, not from tears, at least not at first, but from the sudden release of weeks of pressure that had coiled in my chest, my shoulders, my jaw. I had won. Lily was safe. My hands shook as I pressed the papers against my heart. For the first time since the nightmare began, I felt like I could finally breathe again. An hour later, Claire arrived at my door, her umbrella dripping with rain. She took one look at my face and smiled. "Let me guess," she said. I handed her the letter. She scanned it quickly, nodding. "Not just a win," she murmured. "This is a statement. The judge didn't only reject Daniel's claim, he called out the fraud. That's rare." Her words sank deep. This wasn't just about keeping Lily. This was about truth being written down, officially in the language of the law. No one could erase it now. That afternoon, the phone rang. Mom. For a long second, I considered letting it go to voicemail, but then I pressed accept. Her voice was cool, almost formal. "Well, you got what you wanted," I swallowed. "What I wanted was to protect Lily and to stop you from lying about me in court." Silence. Then a sharp sigh. Family should come before pride, Amelia. No, I said quietly. Family should come before fraud. You made your choice. She didn't answer. The line went dead. 2 days later, I ran into Daniel in the grocery store parking lot. He was loading bags into a rental car. For a second, in the gray drizzle, he almost looked like the man I'd married. Hair mussed, eyes tired. But when he saw me, his face hardened. "You could have let it go," he muttered. I looked him straight in the eye. "You could have not tried to steal from me." His jaw worked, but no words came. He slammed the trunk shut and drove away without looking back. And just like that, the brotherly smile my parents adored, the husband I once trusted, was gone. What remained was only a stranger. In the weeks that followed, the air in my home felt lighter. I fixed the sagging fence in the backyard, painted Lily's room a brighter shade of yellow, laughed with her as we planted tulips by the porch. Neighbors stopped by more often. Mrs. Klein brought cookies. The pediatrician's receptionist sent a small card. So glad justice was served. Even strangers from the courthouse nodded at me when I passed through town, as if they, too, had carried a piece of my fight with them. One evening, I found myself sitting on the porch with Lily in my lap. She traced the rim of my coffee mug with her finger. "Mommy," she whispered, "we're safe now, right?" I kissed the top of her head. "Yes, sweetheart, we're safe." And for the first time, I truly believed it. Still, victory carried its own kind of grief. My parents no longer called. Daniel vanished from town, whispers saying he'd moved to another state. The family I grew up with was fractured, perhaps beyond repair. But as I watched Lily chase fireflies in the yard, her laughter bright against the twilight, I realized something important. I hadn't lost everything. I had lost the illusion of loyalty. And in its place, I had gained something real. Truth, peace, and the chance to raise my daughter without fear. I kept every piece of evidence, the deeds, the receipts, the witness statements, the court decision, in the same binder I carried to court. Not as a trophy, but as a record. A reminder that even when the people closest to you turn against you, you can still stand your ground. Maybe one day, when Lily is older and faces her own battles, I'll hand her that binder, and I'll tell her, "Here. This is proof, not just of what I survived, but of what you're capable of too. Never let anyone take your truth away." That night, as I sat on the porch watching the moonlight spill across the yard, I thought back to what Lily had once whispered during story time. Good things happen when someone believes in you. I smiled through tears, because I finally believed in myself. And I knew no court, no lie, no betrayal could ever take that away again. Winning didn't feel the way I thought it would. There was no parade, no sudden burst of joy, no cinematic ending where everything was tied neatly with a bow. The morning after the judge's decision, I still woke up to the sound of Lily calling for breakfast, still brewed coffee, still packed a school lunch. Life moved on quietly, but the quiet was different now. It wasn't heavy with fear. It was lighter, freer. In the weeks that followed, I tried to adjust to this new normal. Mom never called again. Dad sent one short text. "Take care of yourself." I didn't know if it was meant as kindness or goodbye. Daniel was gone within a month. Word around town said he'd sold his car and moved out of state. No forwarding address, no explanation. Just gone. At first, the silence felt like relief. No more lawyer letters, no more court summons, no more threats disguised as legal language. But silence has a way of echoing. I'd be cooking dinner and suddenly remember Christmas mornings when Daniel and I laughed while Lily tore open presents. I'd be folding laundry and think of my mother's hands, steady as she taught me to hem skirts, the same hands that signed papers against me. The memories stung, like pressing on a bruise. Winning in court didn't erase the ache of betrayal. So I turned to the one place that never lied to me, the rhythm of daily life. the farm, the house, the little rituals Lily and I shared. Every morning I woke before sunrise to brew coffee and watch the mist roll across the fields. Sometimes Lily joined me, her small hand slipping into mine as we watched the first light turn the sky pink. In the afternoons, we worked side by side. I repainted the kitchen cabinets while she spread newspaper across the floor, smearing bright strokes on a cardboard box she called her castle. We laughed when she got more paint on her cheeks than the box itself. These moments were small, ordinary, but they were mine, ours. They were what Daniel could never counterfeit with his polished suit and smooth lies. Claire visited often. She'd sit at my kitchen table sipping tea while Lily chattered about school. One evening, as the sun dipped low, she said, "You know, sometimes winning means losing too." I nodded, because she was right. I had kept Lily, kept the truth, but I had lost my parents, lost the idea of family I once clung to. Yet as I watched Lily curl against me that night, soft breath steady in sleep, I realized some losses make room for better things. In late November, I received a letter from my cousin Emily. She wrote, "I know things are strained, but I'm hosting Christmas dinner this year. You and Lily are welcome. No pressure." I sat with that letter for days. Part of me longed to go, to prove I could still show up, still belong somewhere. But another part knew the wounds were still raw. In the end, I mailed back a simple thank you card and declined, not out of bitterness, but because I wasn't ready. Healing, I realized, doesn't follow a calendar. Winter came early that year. Snow dusted the fields, muffling the world into a soft hush. Lily and I built a lopsided snowman in the yard. She insisted on giving him my scarf and her mittens, declaring, "He's part of our family now." I laughed, and for the first time in months, the sound didn't feel forced. I started journaling again, writing down everything, from the trial to the nights I thought I would break, to the moment I realized I was stronger than I ever knew. Not for anyone else, just for me. Putting words on paper helped me see the story differently. It wasn't just about betrayal. It was about drawing a line and saying, "This far, no further." It was about reclaiming my own voice. By spring, I began hosting small gatherings at the house. Neighbors, a few moms from Lily's school, even the clerk from the post office who had helped me gather records. We shared food, stories, laughter around the fire pit. It wasn't the family I was born into, but it was a family nonetheless. One built not on obligation, but on choice. I still keep the binder of court documents in a cabinet by my desk, not as a reminder of pain, but as a testament. Proof that when lies surrounded me, I stood my ground. Proof that truth, though quiet, has its own thunder. One day, when Lily is older, I'll show it to her. I'll tell her, "This isn't just about a custody battle. It's about believing in yourself, even when the people you love turn away. It's about knowing you're enough. And it's about protecting what's yours, with dignity, with courage, with truth." Now, some evenings I sit on the porch with a cup of tea while Lily plays in the yard. The air hums with the sound of cicadas, the sky painted gold. And I feel it, not triumph, not gloating, but peace. Peace that we survived, peace that we're safe, peace that no matter what storms may come, we'll face them together. Because the story was never just about losing or winning. It was about finding myself again, piece by piece, in the quiet after the storm, and realizing that sometimes the life you rebuild after everything falls apart is stronger, brighter, and more honest than the one you lost. This story wasn't just about a custody battle. It was about betrayal, truth, and a mother's quiet strength. Amelia didn't fight out of spite. She fought out of love. And in the end, the truth was louder than every lie. Maybe you've faced something similar, being doubted, erased, or forced to defend what should never have been questioned. If so, remember, you don't need permission to stand your ground. You don't need everyone to believe in you. What matters is that you believe in yourself and in what's right. Thank you for watching. If this story spoke to your heart, please like, subscribe, and share. Because every voice deserves to be heard, and every truth deserves the light.